quick. That cut off pretty fast, Jimbo. Well, welcome back to Pardon Me, Brother, for episode, is this 8?
Yes.
Yeah, this is episode 8, because 7 was the WWE.
I told you got to start writing these down.
I suck. Sorry.
I'll do it. I'll take care of you this week.
Okay.
All right, I'll get them.
That's awesome.
I'll get a tablet and start keeping track for you.
Well, we have a special guest today that I'd like to introduce.
You didn't tell me.
Hmm?
You didn't tell me we were having a guest.
Oh, yeah, because that's so different for us. So we've got a guest today, but I needed a little bit of help with some stuff for that.
Help.
Yeah. It's a special guest.
Is it Johnny Cash?
No. Yeah. Jim, let me tell you something about this guest we got today.
Okay.
We've been waiting a while to get him here. We wanted him as our first guest, but that didn't happen. But we got him now.
All right. I think I know who this is now.
He's bought us hundreds of hamburgers over the years. He taught us how to be men and take care of our family. He worked for over 40 years at a local Jeep to give us a good life. Still to this day, he helps out his family with car and home issues. He was on the receiving end of Grant and his crazy grass-throwing golf test swings. He threw us in the pool with ease for 2 decades. A man that shared wrestling entertainment with us through the golden years. 1, 2. Are you getting an idea who this is?
Yeah, I think I am.
He watched countless hours of sports and NFL football with us. He's been a friend, a father, a husband, an uncle, a mentor, a brother, and a papa. He is the man in our lives and still is to this day. I'd like to introduce to you our dad,
All right.
James Nissen.
All right.
That's some crazy entertainment right there. Right there, that's some crazy entertainment. All right, Dad. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
How'd you like that little intro?
That was pretty neat.
You like that? I do that stuff for Jim, too. Cause
You know, when I read it on the phone, it didn't have the same effect without the music.
No, it didn't do
And your
it.
southern drawl you had going
It
there.
didn't do it. No, you're right, it didn't do it. So we've got some questions we'd like to ask you today, some of which you're aware of, and some, quite honestly, Jim said, don't tell them. And I said, okay, well, but Dad might not like that very much.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. All right, well, before we get too knee-deep into it, I think we need to have, we have a special guest that wanted to call in and ask a question.
Okay.
Can we do that first?
Let's do it.
So let's do that first. So let me go ahead and...
Is it geek?
Oh, you know what? I can't disclose who it is.
Oh, we'll have to wait and see who it is.
Can I take the fifth on some of these questions?
Well, you may have to.
You can.
So we'll just see if this individual is able to give us a buzz.
I can't wait to hear the question.
And
this
we'll
guest
see who
has.
this is. Yeah, me too. So we'll just kind of wait and see what's going to happen here with this. And maybe what we'll do is let's ask Dad while we're kind of waiting here to see if he's watched our podcasts and what he thinks of our podcast. Should we do that?
Sure.
So, Dad, we're going to turn that over to you. Which podcasts have you watched?
I think I've watched about every one you've done.
What? Are you serious?
Yes, I am.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
What's the last one you remember seeing?
The last one was the redo with Abby.
Oh, the redo with Abby?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you saw part 1.
So
Yes.
part 1 of episode 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there is a part 2, right? There's a part 2 that we
You haven't
did.
posted yet.
Haven't posted. It's about midway through on the editing stuff. So we got a little bit
So
more
did
to
you see
do
the
there.
part 6,
So,
episode 1? It was just him and me in a picture-in-picture.
uh-oh.
I think so.
It was posted before part 5.
Yeah, I believe I did.
Okay. So he's caught up.
I'm sorry I have to take this call. Hello.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. Hello.
Hello, I have my speaker on. Is that okay?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
absolutely.
wonderful. How are you?
Okay. I'm all right. How are you guys doing?
We're doing. It's so funny that you would happen to call right now. It's amazing.
It's that sixth sense.
Yeah, well, it's that big sister vibe. I think you got that
Yeah.
going on. So we have an individual here that we hogtied and convinced him to come in, and that's Dad. And we're asking him some questions, and I thought it'd only be fitting if we
Hi, Dad.
started. Oh, hi, Dad.
Hi.
I thought it'd only be fitting if we let you ask one of the first questions. So, do you have a question for Dad?
Well, it was really hard to narrow it down to a question, so I
Okay.
was hoping that I could
Riff?
maybe have a few questions that kind of all are similar. You
Okay.
know?
Sounds
So-
good.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like you're going to tell me no now, right? Because I'm on air and.
No, you go right ahead, kiddo.
Well, first I wanted to say, this is your one and only.
I know that,
So-
baby.
Hello.
Hi, baby.
Hi. And before I ask my question, I just wanted to say thank you for everything. Appreciate the coach, memories, and all the other ones. So,
Now
had to get that out
stop.
there.
You're making us all be crybabies, and we can't be crybabies.
Don't be a crybaby.
Right, well, just to have it on record, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
That's very
So-
fitting. Very fitting.
I guess I'm curious to know, Dad, what your most vivid childhood memory is,
Ooh.
and that would go along with the most vivid Fleet Road memory that you have. And how'd you get your nickname when you were a kid? Because I don't know that all the family knows about that.
You had a nickname when you were a kid?
I heard the first part, honey, but I missed the second part.
Fleet Road. Fleet Road
I know
memory.
you wanted to know about Fleet Road.
Fleet Road and your childhood memory. You know, when you were a kid, what was your most vivid or favorite memory?
Oh, my childhood memories.
Yeah.
Bum, bum.
They're not really good, honey. I come from a broken family, and I was raised mostly by my father, and we had to work, and it was a difficult era. So
Okay.
I guess that's why I tried to make all of your childhoods as good as I could possibly do that.
I see. Well, you succeeded. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there's nobody complaining at this table, and it doesn't sound like anybody on that phone there is complaining either.
But Fleet Road brings a ton of wonderful memories. You know, all three of you were younger, and those are memories that these things don't ever come back. You know, once you grow up, it's an empty house, and parents miss their children.
Yep.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Just the good kids.
And you had a nickname as a kid
Yes, I did.
or young adult? I don't know how that. I don't recall the story on
Skid
how that
mark.
came to be.
You know, I have no idea how that ever came about, but my nickname was Corky, and I have no idea where that came from or how it ever got started.
Oh yeah. Did everybody call you that, or was it just your
No,
friends?
just family.
Oh, just family.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not allowed to
Okay.
call them that.
Just family. There might have been a couple neighborhood kids that I run around with that did, but at school I was always Jim.
Gotcha. All right. Well, interesting. At least we all have a little bit more insight into you. So I'll be interested in watching this podcast when it's posted or
Someday.
dropped or whatever you call it nowadays.
Uploaded.
Uploaded. Okay.
I like
Okay.
dropped. I like that better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to let you know when it drops.
Okay. Do that.
Booyah.
Do that.
Well, any
Well, have a
other
great-
any other
have a
questions
great
you got for
time.
Dad or no?
Nope. Actually, I'm sure you guys have a lot of good questions laid out.
We
And
got some serious ones and then some funny ones.
You're
So,
supposed to
I-
ask what we had to do to drag Dad over here.
I
finally.
may have to take the fifth, Sid. You never know about these two guys.
well, I know, but they are family, so you just got to do what you got to do.
Yep, there you go.
got to deal with it. Sorry about that.
Yep. Pretty much. Well, have a nice time and enjoy it.
Well, it was sweet that you came on board and we got to talk to you.
I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you very much, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy. We love you.
Love,
Love
you,
you
baby.
guys too.
All right.
Love
See
you.
you later.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
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 Well, that was interesting. How did that happen? That was just not what I was expecting to have happen. But it was very good to have Cindy on. It was very good to get her to ask some questions and probably
The call in right there reminds me that Dad actually was on our first podcast.
how was he on? Hold on a minute. You
Hold
gotta
on a
explain
minute. You don't
explain that.
remember?
It was a phone call.
I called him. We called him,
That's
Oh, we
right.
did, didn't we?
and he called back,
Yep.
didn't
Yeah.
you?
And he
was
said,
on.
"What the hell do you want?"
And we
No, I
invited him.
didn't.
We invited him to be our first ever guest,
Yeah.
and he accepted.
Okay.
It didn't work out that way, but we
And I
did
was-
talk to him on air.
I was out to dinner.
Yeah,
when Jim
he called back, and we were still on
Oh.
air.
I don't remember a damn thing, do I? Not
Cindy
really.
was on too.
I remember Cindy, but I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Yes,
that
we
part
called
with Dad.
Dad.
So, well, let's give Cindy a round of applause for coming in and thank you, Cindy, for calling. We love you. Appreciate that.
Only took 8 episodes. We finally had people listening.
Yeah, that's no
Our
kidding,
live
right?
studio
No kidding.
audience.
No kidding. That's the truth on that one. So let's go back to, I guess, Dad, with the podcast that you have seen. Did you, which ones did you like the most? Was there one that kind of stood out?
Well, I think they all did. They were all very informative. It was nice to hear your guests, their answers to some of the questions. And it was just neat to watch what you and Jim do with the podcast. I think it's really neat.
I have to ask, how did you like the, I'm not sure which episode, the one with Larry
Don't do
and
it.
Nathan?
What?
The one with Larry and Nathan and all the stories that they had to tell, too.
It was interesting because they told stuff that I had not heard before.
Yes. Well, I wasn't asking for that reason. Just because, Nathan had a lot of nice things to say about you.
Yeah, he brought up
here's-
a story about prom.
Do you remember any of that?
No.
You don't remember? Did you? You probably did pay the. You probably did tip the chauffeur though. didn't
Yes,
you?
I did. I tipped a few chauffeurs.
Yeah, it's funny how Nathan said that. He goes, years later, I realized, your dad was not just talking to the driver; he was tipping
He
the
tipped
driver.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I
none of us
wanted-
did.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
He had precious cargo in my mind.
Right.
Well, the other thing too, Jim, that I don't know if you're aware of or not, but Nathan was with me, and we happened to stop by and saw Mom and Dad at their place.
Uh-huh.
We went over to their other house on Crystal Ridge,
Okay.
and while we were there, Nathan retold this story about the cummerbund
Oh, did
to
he?
Dad. Yeah, so that was
Yes,
kind of neat. He
that
told
was-
about that. So, and I don't know if Dad really remembers that happening or not, but that was
It's just what Dad did.
it is.
That story was great because it just encompasses that's who Dad is. He looked out for us as young men and our friends, and
Mm-hmm.
he did things that he would do that. He would take care of you and not make a big deal about it, and just help you out and make you ready for your prom night. I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
he was good about stuff like that. He was always good about stuff like that.
Well, should we move on to question 2 then? You want to ask him that question there? We got on there?
Question 2.
Yeah, let's go ahead and ask Dad about that.
Oh, you want to tell us a little bit about your racing career, Dad? Like how long did it last, and why you stopped, and just tell us a little bit about it. Wow, how'd you get into it?
Did you race horses?
I would go to the races, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Uh-huh.
And I talked to some people, and I found out it wouldn't be that difficult to get involved.
Okay.
So I bought a vehicle. It was a 53 Chevy.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
I had a lot of races with it. It was a lot of fun. They tried to put me out in the very first race. They run me right into the wall.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
as a total amateur,
Right.
I wasn't aware
Right.
that if you get in the outside lane, when you make that turn, if they nudge you a little bit, you're going right into the wall. So after that, I bought some 6x6 angle iron, half-inch stick, welded it on the car, and took care of business, you know. I ran many, many races with that car.
Nice.
And then I got a sponsor for another car.
Uh-huh.
And he was a fellow that worked at Jeep. He had a junkyard out in Matamore, Ohio.
Okay.
And he actually gave me a car and all the parts, tires,
Nice.
everything that I needed for it. And my number was 21. That was always my favorite number.
21. Didn't know that. Where did you race?
At Speedway on Benore Road.
Toledo Speedway. And what type of cars was it?
Is it a 53
It
Chevy?
was all hobby.
Is that like a stock car type of a race?
Yeah, they were older cars. Some of them were newer if somebody had money involved, you know.
Okay.
But most of them were in the early 50 models.
They weren't cars that you drove on the road, right? You just drove them in races? Like
Yeah,
no lights and stuff? They were just stripped down,
Yeah,
kind of?
they were fixed up for the race.
Okay.
This was a figure-8 race.
Uh-huh.
So there were a lot of collisions.
Oh, my God. How do you do that?
A lot of accidents. And when you made the cross in the middle, you better just go, you know. You don't.
jeez.
If you hesitate, the guy behind you shoves you into somebody anyway. So
Yeah, because what's the goal when you're in a figure-8 race? To be the last car running,
Last
right?
car on the track?
pretty much.
Isn't that what it is?
I had many third-place finishes. I finished first a few times,
Did you?
and it was fun. I enjoyed it. I had a buddy who went with me. We towed the car.
Okay.
You had to tow it out there. You couldn't drive it. There was really no plates on it.
Right.
And back in those days, you didn't even put a tag on it. You know, and nobody stopped you.
Right.
Right.
I don't know that they would be that forgiving today. Things
Right.
are a little different.
A little different. Probably
But,
got to have a trailer and
My buddy,
With working lights.
he wanted to drive, you know, and I finally give in, let him drive, and the center track was dirt, and the racetrack is asphalt.
Okay.
So he zips out of the dirt, and he just threw the clutch right there. So he never got to drive.
oh no.
So I fixed the clutch, and we did a couple more races, and he kept bugging me, and I'll tell you, the reason I quit racing was because it was the race or friendship.
Yeah.
So I quit
That's
racing.
too bad.
Okay. Okay. So you chose the
How old
friendship.
were you when you were racing?
Was in the early 60s, so I'm going to say 22, 23.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So it was a fun time, you know. And
Let's put that in perspective. How old is Jared?
23.
Damn.
Yeah.
That means, and Tyler's 20.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty much their age.
Yeah.
yeah,
Is where they'd be starting out at.
Yeah.
How funny is that? Wow. What year do you think it was, Dad, that you stopped racing? Any idea? Mid 60s, 65
it had
maybe?
to be maybe around 65,
Okay.
somewhere in that period.
Did you ever have an issue with the car, that you couldn't fix and didn't get to race? Do you remember ever that happening?
Nope, every race I went out there, I run.
You ran? Awesome.
Except when my buddy dropped the clutch. We didn't run. We had to push it back in the pits
Oh,
and
yeah.
Gosh.
towed it back home, But
Why didn't he get his own car?
I don't know. I guess I never questioned.
He wanted to race your car.
Well, he was my friend,
I get that.
school friend,
Sure.
and I don't know. I guess I can't answer that.
Well, I mean, he's going out there with you and helping you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to say no, but at the same time, you want to race too. You know, I mean, I get it. It would be. I can understand you quitting.
Well, the whole first
giving
year,
it up for that reason.
I run, I think 2 years or 2.5 years I raced. And it was in the latter part of that time that I actually had him drive.
Okay.
But, you know,
Got it.
it was, I think, a fun time. You know, it was good. It was every Sunday night.
That's
And-
cool.
And you were working at Jeep at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's kind of segue into that if we can. Tell us a little bit about your Jeep career, because I know that you were a millwright there for a long time. So tell us kind of how you got the job, how you became a millwright, and then how long were you a millwright there?
Well, I started at Jeep in 1962.
Okay.
I worked, of course, my father got me the job. They hired at that year, they did a large expansion of employment.
Okay.
So there were a lot of people got hired. And I started, like I say, at 2 years I did production. And that was not the best. It was
Right.
pretty, you know, they're pretty demanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then came up to bid for the skilled trades. And truthfully, I don't know why I did it. I just
You just did
I
it?
bid on the job, and I got in as you took a test as an apprentice, mostly an aptitude test you
Right.
took, and I got the position and 4 years apprenticeship program.
Wow.
So they try to teach you how to be a person in the skilled trades. And I think either you have a knack or you don't.
I
Because there
get
were
that.
guys that were in there that skated through that were not really talented.
Okay.
But I did that from probably 1964. Let's see, I had probably 25, 26 years as a
Oh my
millwright.
gosh.
And then from there, I bid on a computer job. And Grant, you were the culprit there. Because
Tell
it
that
got
story.
me-
What happened there?
Well, you got involved in computers, and you were
Right.
talking to me about it, and I didn't want to do it.
Right.
I said, well, what for? And what am I going to do with it? And
Right.
et cetera and so forth. But you were persistent,
I
which
did.
is good. I'm really glad you did. I can't thank you enough for that because it gave me a lot of opportunities.
Sure.
So, again, I had to take a test to get into the computer job. And I did that for about 10 years.
Wow.
And that was a really good job. I had my own office, my own phones. My boss was a super guy. And my job was to protect his job.
Okay.
So if there was a breakdown, what we did with that computer was we documented maintenance on equipment.
Okay.
And that was the whole idea, to prove that we kept it in running order. So if there
Got
was
it.
a breakdown, you know, in the manufacturing, that's pretty expensive.
Right.
So if there was a breakdown, my boss would call me, and I would, whatever equipment had broke down, I would get the books, the documentation, and meet him at the plant manager's office, and we would show that we had done the proper maintenance, that
Okay.
it wasn't a maintenance issue
Right.
that broke that equipment down.
Right.
Gotcha. Makes
So-
sense.
So he was really good to me. He let me pay myself. He let me work hours. I could come in late. I could stay late. I could go home early.
Oh,
All
interesting.
kinds of things. He was really good.
That's
Nice.
amazing.
That was a good job. That was what I ended my career.
And how many years did you have at Jeep when you decided to retire and you took your buyout or what have you, or that kind of thing?
39 years, 3 months.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. So I was pretty close with 40 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
That's
I
impressive.
wasn't real thrilled with the idea of the buyout because I was only 57.
Oh my God.
So it's
And he had almost 40 years in.
Don't be a crybaby.
You know, it makes you hesitant.
Wow. Well, then the question I have, that's an obvious question. You're saying that I helped you with that?
Yes.
Then I would assume that I would get, is it 5% or 10% of the pay? How does that work, Jim?
10.
I'm still
It's 10%, I believe.
I'm still waiting on my check, so let's see what happens with that.
What's the
You got to be
saying?
careful what you say, especially
know.
when it's being taped, Dad.
Yes.
We are absolutely coming back to this
Well,
later.
there's-
I
for
did hear
sure.
you say it was because of Grant, so
Yeah, well, there's a saying, you know, that goes along with that. It's in the mail.
it's in the mail.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Gotcha.
I have. There was also a time, and a little birdie told me this. There was a time that you had an opportunity to open up your own business, and you had an opportunity to work with a company. I think it was called Panel Land. Did I say that right?
Yes.
So what's the story on that? This is something that we've never heard about.
Never heard
that you
about that.
decided to stay with Jeep and not do Panel Land. So explain what is Panel
Well,
Land?
it was a store that sold paneling and some other construction goods.
Okay.
And Mom and I happened to be at a Kmart store, and we saw this business had a big for sale sign in there to buy the business.
Okay.
So we kicked it around for a while and just determined that it wasn't probably the correct thing to do. It's hard to leave a good paying job
Oh, yeah.
to jump into something else. And remember,
When you
know,
got kids, especially.
you guys were somewhat the culprits that we didn't do it because of the responsibility.
Right. I understand that 100%.
You know,
Jim,
So-
what he's saying there is that we ate too much.
Yes.
That's what that means.
Yes. He needed the money.
He needed the money for McDonald's,
and often.
and often. Well, I thought that was interesting because, you know, mom's the birdie, of course, and she told me a little bit about that. And so I was like, so Dad had a chance to start his own business? And she goes, yeah, and we were quite serious about it for a short period of time, that we really, truly thought about doing this. And I just thought that was pretty incredible.
That is.
That's something I
I
never
never
knew
knew that. Never heard
knew
that before.
Never knew that before. Also, with that, there was another job, Dad, that you turned down that you had an opportunity to do, which was you were offered a position, and correct me, and I know you will, but you were offered a position as a full-time teacher at Whitmer High School.
Correct.
Is that correct as well?
That is correct.
So how did that come about?
Well, I was a apprentice instructor at Whitmer for several years. I ended up doing that for about 10 years. And there was a shop teacher that was going to retire. It was actually in the welding shop.
Okay.
And I kicked it around for a while and I applied. Our coordinator that was in charge of the apprentice instructors
Okay.
asked me to sign to try out for it.
No kidding.
So I did. And long story short, after the interview and everything, they offered me the job.
No kidding.
But the problem with that also was the different pay scale. And I even thought about I could do it in the daytime and work nights on my other job.
Okay.
And we just decided no, not to do it.
So let me ask you this then. When you were working there originally it was like a part-time instructor, was that the adult education part of it?
Adult vocational education.
So you were teaching the millwright stuff
the millwright
to
trade.
adults that were coming in.
Yes.
So the apprentice.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you tell Jim, and I don't know if I'm sure he probably knows this story, but tell Jim the story about who took your practice tests for these adults.
Well, if you're referring to the
Is this right?
tests that we gave when we first started the classes,
Yeah.
is that what you're referring to?
I think so.
Like the math test for one thing.
Yeah.
You know, you want to see where everybody's at. So you give a basic test so you know where you have to start, or
Right.
what level they're at. And over 80% failed a very fundamental grade school, math test, addition, subtraction, multiplication. They just flunked it.
Right.
They did not know. So then you start really low.
Right.
And, a lot of times adults think that, what good is it? What am I going to do with it? They
Right.
hadn't used it. Some of these guys were in their 40s. They
Yeah.
wanted to enter the trade. So,
Well, you hear this like with all the kids, and I'm sure Jim can attest to this too, but with all of my children, they all at one point or another said, I'm never going to use this. Why do I got to do it? This is ridiculous. And nobody uses math in their job. And then, of course, they look at us and they go, okay, Dad, I know you do. I know Mom's an accountant. Crap. Okay. So other than you two, no one else is going to, So we hear all that. But, yeah, a lot of the tests for Dad, he had me take. And then he would go in, Jim, and tell his class that my son, who's like I think I was in junior high. He's in 7th grade junior high. He passed this test. So let's see how you guys do. And kind of put him on the edge a little bit. So,
that story you were telling Dad about turning down the teaching position is kind of funny. Do you remember when I turned down the job at Jeep because
I
I was
do.
pursuing teaching?
yes, I do.
yeah, what's that all about?
Well, I was a painter for a long time, and Dad got the lottery drawing, and he gave me the number, so I put my name. I don't remember how it worked, but I got to apply for Jeep,
Yeah.
and I took the tests, and I did well, and all that, and
Right.
at the same time, that was around the time I started substitute teaching, and I was doing that every day, and I loved it. I loved teaching, and I wanted to do that. I was like, man, I'll be a teacher. I'd love it. I have, just had a great time at it. And Jeep called, and they're like, hey, you want to come in and work? And it was around the time when I think things were steady.
Oh, yeah.
So the job was good. The economy was good. The job was steady. But the problem is they weren't hiring a ton of people. They weren't laying people off. But you would work,
Okay.
but maybe for 2 months, and then you'd get laid off. And then maybe 2 or 3 months, they'd call you back.
I
and
remember
maybe
that.
you'd work again.
I remember that.
And you could get in that way, but it took a long time.
period of
It
time.
took a time, and you had to be willing to,
Yeah.
be work and then not work. Then you got to do something else or be without income. So, and I remembered at that time I was looking into teaching, and I just said no, thank you. I mean, it was kind of
Wow.
crazy, and then I didn't wind up teaching anyways. But
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of funny that you've got two gentlemen here. You got Jim and James missing, right? You got two Jim missings. Both of them involved in one format or another with teaching. Both of them involved in one format or another with Jeep.
right, that's kind of neat.
How funny is that? I mean, you couldn't make that up.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Why don't we do, Jim, and I'll let you select. Why don't we do another question for Dad, and then we're going to take a break because we're already at about 34 minutes.
Okay.
You can see the counter there on the top
Can
of the
I
screen.
go anywhere, or do you want me to go right?
Dude, you can
next?
go anywhere. You go ahead. Where do you want to go?
Well, you brought up the fact about you made the comment about Dad's made the comment about needing money, and you said for all the hamburgers. So let's let Dad tell the story about the time we went out to eat for dinner. What did Grant and I do on the ride home from dinner? Do you remember?
Yes, I remember. I always thought you guys were showing off, but I think it was a legitimate appetite.
Now, I do want to stress it was. I think it was a family dinner, and I think the Alexanders there were a lot of people there, so it wasn't like we ate and left immediately.
Right.
So we were there for a little bit.
Yeah.
So maybe it was an hour after.
That's so
we
nice
ate.
of you.
Well, I do want to stress that.
That was at the period of time, and I don't know the exact year, but that was at the period of time that Wendy's was relatively new. And we had left this gathering, and on the ride home, you guys wanted me to stop and get triple-decker hamburgers at Wendy's.
Yes, we always
Yeah.
got triples.
And I thought, God, are they serious, But we did stop, we did get them, and yes, you guys ate them.
Grant, do you remember what it was Dad said?
Was
it something like,
we tell
"You
the story
cannot
so
be
different.
serious"?
Yeah, we tell the story different. So, do you want me to tell or do you want to tell
you
it?
tell.
Oh
Go
God.
ahead.
Okay, and then we're going to cut back to Dad.
Okay.
because I want to know if this is accurate. Okay, what I remember as a kid is sitting in the back seat, and Jimmy's the one that speaks up and goes, "Hey, Dad, on the way home, do you mind if we get a triple at Wendy's?" And I thought you were going to wreck the car. And I just remember either you pulled over or we were at a stoplight, but you kind of did that thing with your arm when you put your hand behind the seat, right? And you look back at him, and the finger came out, and you went, "Are you serious right now? We just ate." Now, of course, at this point, I'm urinating in my seat because I'm like, he's going to point to me in a minute.
Right.
And he looks at Jim, and Jim's just real. He goes, "Yeah, I'm serious, you know?" And he goes, "If I get you this hamburger, you better eat it." And Jim goes, "Oh, okay." Like, "Yeah, I'll eat it." And then I remember you pointing the finger at me and going, "I suppose you want one too." That's what I remember. And I was like, "Yeah." And before we got too far out of the parking lot after picking him up, I think Dad was like, "Is it gone? Are you serious?" And then he's talking about, I'm like, "Those boys ate that hamburger." And she's, "Honey, they're hungry." That's what I remember. Is that even accurate at all?
That's pretty close. To my recollection, that's pretty close.
Now,
Oh, my
boys like
gosh.
to eat.
But you were growing boys. You both had
Yeah.
a great appetite.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it did, if you were hungry, it didn't matter.
We weren't heavy. I mean, we weren't big
No,
kids.
No.
No.
But we were growing. We just ate.
And you both have lived it also because with your boys,
Oh, yeah.
you
Oh, the
know
kids,
that,
yeah.
Well, Tyler was
delicious
the same way.
appetites.
He ate.
Tyler
Guy
ate.
was
Sam was a
kid
good
was
eater.
a stick, but he ate like crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, and Sammy was always a good eater. You could throw almost anything in front of her. She liked vegetables, meat. She didn't make a difference. Tyler's more of a meat and potatoes, and now Abby's like with her sports stuff that she's got going on in her soccer and the dance and everything. She gets hungry. I mean, I just look at her and go, "Where's Grandpa? He needs to see this because he would never believe that our stick figure of a daughter would eat like that." But she eats good too. So, but Jim, you got anything else on that, or you ready to take a break here?
Why don't you throw in one of those pictures and see what Dad thinks of that?
Oh, one of the photos. All right. Well, we got
see
if he's got anything on here that he can actually talk about, and let's just go to camera 3
No, camera 3.
and see if we can zoom in a little bit so Dad can see this picture here.
All right.
Look at this guy. He's pretty hunky. That's you. You remember that?
Yep.
And I think that's the look you gave us when you said, "You're going to eat a hamburger." We just had dinner.
That is a young you, Dad.
Any
Is
idea
that
where that
60s?
was?
Nope.
Is that on a boat? No, it's not.
Nope, I don't think so.
Looks like maybe a deck or something.
I don't know where that was at.
And then there's another one that Jim did on here too. How about this one?
Oh, that's a good one.
That was last weekend.
The first one says Daytona 1964.
Daytona Beach.
Yeah, is that what that was? Okay, because I saw the lawn chairs now. How about this guy?
I don't know if that one has anything on it. It's Jim drinking. No, let me see what it said. New Year's Eve 1964. New Year's Eve party.
Can we tell what that is? Can we see what
Know
has
what
he
that
got?
bottle is? What is that?
I don't know. Don't drink me, it says. Look at him go. Look at him go. There's Dad. Check him
I
out.
like it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, he's got a lot of explaining to do. Lots to do. So we're gonna take a break here, Dad. Appreciate the first part of this
Perfect
deal
timing.
going here. And we're heading out. Be back later.
We started a game we never got to finish.
I was just fooling about.
I wasn't.